Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 32. Blackwater Valley, in the meeting hall of the castle. Priest Abraham sat upright, and Night Glimmer stood straight beside him. Levi sat opposite Priest Abraham, with Sir Fred protecting him. Levi looked a little reserved and afraid, and these small expressions were captured by Priest Abraham, who was good at observing people's expressions. As expected, he's still an immature youth. The priest muttered to himself. Before he came, he had naturally done the investigation of the surrounding nobles. He paid special attention to Blackwater Valley, where a big shot like the Black Snake Knight had appeared. He had heard that this little baron was timid and afraid of trouble, and now that he looked at it, it was indeed the case. Priest Abraham coughed and said seriously, "Baron Levi, I'm here to buy Blackwater Valley." Priest Abraham said straightforwardly. In this era, the church itself was a super overlord. Through various annexation methods, the territory directly controlled by the church was second only to the royal family. Many local churches and monasteries directly or indirectly controlled many manors and land. One of the most important methods of annexation was to buy their territories from the fallen nobles. Hearing this, Sir Fred's expression changed and he looked at Levi. Levi was not in a hurry to refuse. If the other party offered a good price, then it did not matter if he sold it. He just lowered his head and remained silent. Priest Abraham smiled and continued, 2,000 gold coins. This price is twice the price I offered to the heirs of the Rock Bear family and the Frost Wolf family. It's mainly out of the respect the church has for the Black Snake Knight. I also know that the annual income of Blackwater Valley is less than 100 gold coins. This amount of money is enough for Baron Levi and Sir Fred to live comfortably for the rest of your lives. Baron Levi should also be aware that a remote and poor land like the Blackwater Valley was destined to not develop into a fertile land. The natural conditions here limited the development of this place. Rather than that, it would be better to sell it to us and let the church manage it. After saying that, Priest Abraham looked at Levi with a smile, calm and confident. He believed that this famous coward and prodigal wouldn't refuse such an excellent offer. However, the current Levi was no longer the same as before. With his own forging skills, he could earn back 2,000 gold coins sooner or later. Why would he sell the land? It was easier to sell land than to redeem it. Under normal circumstances, the nobles in this world would not trade their territories, which were the foundation of their status, unless they were desperate, such as the heirs, Baron Frostwolf and Baron Rock Bear. Using 2,000 gold coins to buy Blackwater Valley was a little low. Although the valley was remote and backward, it was huge. Even though most of the land was steep and uncultivable, the church was going too far to buy it for 2,000 gold coins. The most important thing was that Levi had already established absolute prestige in this territory. This was an intangible value that could only be exchanged for long-term management. Even if he used the money given by the church to buy a new territory, it meant that he had to start from scratch and readjust. The time cost was too high. I'm sorry, Priest Abraham. Our Black Snake family has already lived here for 200 years. Every brick and tile here is filled with the feelings of our family. Every citizen here also treats us as their masters. As their lord, how can I abandon them? Levi shook his head and refused. Sir Fred heaved a sigh of relief. This was the backbone that the descendants of the Black Snake family should have. They couldn't protect Tulip Hill and Stormy Hill because there were too many interests involved in those two territories. With their strength, they really couldn't participate. However, the Blackwater Valley was the ancestral land and the last territory of the Black Snake family. They absolutely couldn't lose it. Moreover, even if it was Tulip Hill and Stormy Hill, Levi was still the owner of those two territories in name. It was just that he did not have any real power. However, if Levi had the strength one day, he could take them back. With this name, it would be justified to take them back. However, if the title deed was sold and the ownership of the land was transferred to the church, it would completely belong to the church. If they wanted to get it back, they would either have to buy it back from the church or wage war against them. These two choices were impossible. "Oh, Baron Levi, are you not going to consider it?" Priest Abraham said with a smile, but his tone was unquestionable. To be honest, a small baron actually dared to reject him. This made Priest Abraham a little impatient, but he was very good at hiding his emotions. "I'm sorry, but if the priest's purpose is to take away the last territory of our family, I can't agree. Even if I agree, my people won't agree." Levi looked nervous, but his tone was firm. Although he was still weak now, this did not mean that he had to make endless concessions on issues related to his core interests. The Wild Boar gang had snatched away old Toby, who was only a blacksmith. The territory could still operate without him, but without the territory, how could he cultivate the breathing technique? Without the territory, he would have to spend a lot of money on his clothes, food, accommodation, and transportation. Moreover, he had no source of income. He couldn't possibly work as a blacksmith for others. 2,000 gold coins might seem like a lot, but it was actually not worth it. All right, let's not talk about this for now. However, I welcome Baron Levi to come to the Silver Moon territory to discuss this matter with me at any time. Let's move on to the second matter, about the tax arrears in the Blackwater Valley. Baron Levi, you should know that you have 3 territories under your name, all of which need to pay taxes to the church. After your father passed away, the church gave Tulip Hill and Stormy Hill the most preferential tax policies in order to take care of the Black Snake family. As for the Blackwater Valley, the church has always turned a blind eye because of its remote location. Baron Levi, you should know that according to the rules, the church can levy taxes on all territories under the Heavenly Father, regardless of whether the church has previously levied taxes on them. There is no time limit for the tax to be levied. The church can decide whether to levy taxes on them or not. In other words, from the time your family took over the Blackwater Valley until now, the church has had the right to collect taxes for the past 200 years. It's just that the church didn't do so before. Baron Levi, what do you plan to do with the taxes that Blackwater Valley owes? Priest Abraham asked calmly. The meaning behind his words was self-evident. "We will pay the taxes that we should pay," Levi replied. He sneered in his heart. He could not enjoy the tax benefits that the church had given to the Black Snake family. After all, the income from those 2 territories was not for him. To put it bluntly, because of the death of his father, a top-notch expert, in this era of chaos and greed, all kinds of large and small forces wanted to divide the last bit of things his father left behind. It was not a bad idea for the church to buy the land. At least they would pay for it. At that time, the situation in Tulip Hill and Storm Hilly was much more severe than now. The minions of the Duke of Montenegro threatened Levi directly or indirectly. The feeling of being weak is really unpleasant. Even though they were unhappy, they couldn't directly refuse paying taxes. If he rejected this, it would mean that Levi had completely rebelled against the authority of the church. Levi was not afraid of Abraham, a mere priest. He was afraid of the Church of Holy Light, which was a huge force formed by monasteries, churches, clergymen, and complicated networks all over the country. This included the most powerful armed forces of the Church of Holy Light, Radiant Knights. A force made up of hundreds of official knights and 7 grand knights, the invincible sword of the church, was enough to flatten all forces in the kingdom that dared to resist them. Levi had the proficiency panel. Becoming a wizard might be unknown, but becoming a grand knight or even a legendary knight was a sure thing as long as he was alive. Therefore, he knew that he had to endure some things. Priest Abraham had turned buying land into paying taxes. To be honest, it was already a benevolent action among the people in the church. He had given Levi a way out. All right, thank you for your cooperation, Baron Levi. This is the total amount of taxes that we have calculated for the past few years for Blackwater Valley. In view of the great contribution of the Black Snake Knight to the cause of the church, we have already waived the huge late payment fee for the tax arrears. We will only take the principal. Please pay it, Baron. Priest Abraham handed over a tax bill. He had obviously prepared it long ago. First, he would discuss buying the territory with Levi. It would be best if he agreed. If he didn't agree, then fine. He could pay the taxes he owed immediately. Levi took the tax receipt and looked at the amount on it. The corner of his eyes could not help but twitch. 1,000 gold coins. This old fellow had traced back to 100 years ago. Chapter 33. Levi's chest was burning with rage. They didn't collect it when the Black Snake Knight was alive, but they started to collect it when he died, right? He even said that he would be exempted from late fees for his father's contribution. But in the end, his rationality calmed him down. Regardless of whether these laws were good or evil, after all, laws were born to protect the interests of rulers. It could only be said that weakness was the greatest sin in this world. This is a large sum of money. I can only pay in installments. Levi said. Sure, then we'll have to add interest for the delay. In addition to the taxes that Blackwater Valley will have to pay in the next 10 years, from now on, Blackwater Valley will pay 150 gold coins to the church every year. After 10 years, the taxes shall be paid normally. The priest said calmly. This was equivalent to the church's usury. In fact, usury was also a source of income for the church. It was impossible to support the church with only one-tithe taxes and indulgences. All right. Levi agreed. He could not go against the church yet. Even though he would have to pay the church 1,500 gold coins in taxes in 10 years, he could only accept it. The old man had already calculated everything. He clearly wanted his territory. Levi could only agree temporarily and could not resist. However, who knew what would happen in 10 long years? After signing the contract, the priest swaggered away with night glimmer. Levi narrowed his eyes. The killing intent in his heart spread, but it was suppressed by his own rationality. Sir Fred sighed. Why don't the two of us find an opportunity to kill Abraham in the next 2 days? With our cooperation, it won't be difficult to kill Night Glimmer. Sir Fred suddenly said. It's useless. If Abraham dies, the church will send other priests. It's meaningless unless we can kill all the Radiant Knights. Levi said. Money is not a problem. I'll just hand over 150 gold coins a year. However, one day, I'll take back all this money with interest. After saying that, Levi returned to his cultivation state. He was too weak now. Other than saying harsh words, there was nothing else he could do. Whether it was the church or the wild boar gang, they were all bullying him because he was weak. After all, Sir Fred was almost 50 years old, and his physical strength was gradually declining. On the other hand, he was still young and had not grown up yet. Levi's method was to endure. It was useless to be angry. This was the rule of the world. How could an egg fight a rock head-on? Ordinary people would not be able to defeat a tiger even if they were extremely angry. How could he, who was not even an official knight, fight against a giant like the church? I have the proficiency panel. My future is bright. I can't lose my life because of a moment of impulsiveness. The most important thing now is to become an official knight. After the incident with the church, Levi worked even harder on his cultivation. He had never worked so hard in his previous life. Cultivating the black snake breathing technique, comprehending the frost wolf breathing technique, forging, managing the territory, and countless things weighed down on Levi, leaving him no time to rest. Year 1006 of the Holy Brilliance calendar, the warm month. This was the most comfortable time of the year in Blackwater Valley. It was neither hot nor cold. It had been 2 months since Levi started practicing the Frost Wolf breathing technique. Just as Levi was about to give up on the Frost Wolf breathing technique, he finished cultivating it as usual. Suddenly, he felt a familiar feeling. It was the same feeling he had when he first learned the Black Snake breathing technique. Levi was ecstatic as he opened his proficiency panel. Black Snake breathing technique, level 3, 6467/10,000. Frost Wolf breathing technique, level 1, 1/1000. Golden Cross / level 3, 7000/10,000. Special effect, advanced vibration. Forging, level 3, 4123/10,000. Special effect, fine grade certainty. I finally learned it. Levi jumped up in excitement. Once it was recorded in the proficiency panel, the rest would be much easier. He had not been so excited for a long time because this meant that he could learn the breathing techniques of other bloodlines without the need for other noble bloodlines. It was just that the time taken to learn it was a little long, but this was not a problem. As long as it was on his panel, he would cultivate it to the limit sooner or later. Levi was full of confidence. He suddenly had an idea. When he had the strength, he would think of a way to collect all the top-notch night breathing techniques in the world. Whether it was strength type, speed type, endurance type, or defense type, he wanted them all. In that case, even if he could not become a wizard, he should be able to stand at the top of the world by relying on the accumulation of a large number of breathing techniques. It even surpassed the achievements of a legendary knight. He would become the well-deserved god of the world, the king of the century. For a moment, the haze of being robbed by the church was swept away. Hee, old dog Abraham, just you wait. Levi struck while the iron was hot and continued to cultivate Frost Wolf breathing technique. Just like that, the days passed. At the end of the month of flowing fire, Levi personally led the team, bringing along the armor and weapons he had forged during this period of time, to the Shining Tavern in Icewind City. As promised, he made a deal with the unknown knight, still in the name of White Wolf Gerald. There were a total of 6 sets of premium plate armor and nearly 100 knight swords, which were sold for less than 300 gold coins. Unfortunately, he did not meet the knight who sold ambergris. Levi went to the Jade Chamber of Commerce, but they were still out of stock. In the end, he could only bring the gold coins back to the territory. In an instant, he had 300 gold coins in his account, solving the tight financial crisis in the territory. However, the iron ore in the territory was completely depleted. Levi had no choice but to search along Blackwater Valley based on the limited knowledge he had in his previous life. After spending a lot of time, he finally found a small exposed iron mine dozens of miles upstream of Blackwater River, finally solving the ore crisis. In order to maintain the supply of iron, many of the militia in the territory were arranged to mine, chop wood, burn charcoal, and make iron. The number of blacksmith apprentices had also increased. Levi planned to make the forging industry an important pillar industry in his territory while ensuring the stability of basic agricultural production. The ordinary knight swords and shields would be forged by Little Milan and other blacksmith apprentices, and the most important armor would be forged by Levi himself. When Little Milan became an official blacksmith, he would snatch the old blacksmith Toby back, and he would be able to relax a little. Just like that, from mining, burning charcoal, and smelting, to the final forging, the division of labor was clear. Under such high-efficiency operations, the production of weapons and armor finally increased by a lot. Of course, Levi would not treat his subjects unfairly. The most outstanding blacksmith apprentices would receive a salary of 1 gold coin a year. This made the apprentices who had never seen gold coins happy and full of energy. During the month of the furnace, the territory had forged 4 sets of armor and 50 knight swords. When it was the month of wheatfield, it was the season of wheat harvest. When the wheat harvest was completed, Levi was pleasantly surprised to find that in the first year of the new policy, wheat production had increased by 5%. This was an unprecedented increase. As expected, in this era, the best way to mobilize productivity was to motivate the labor force with a full tummy. Apart from that, Levi's frost wolf breathing technique was also progressing very quickly. Frost wolf breathing technique also had its own secret medicine, but compared to the black snake secret medicine, the frost wolf secret medicine was much simpler. The main ingredient was wolf meat. There was plenty of wolf meat in Levi's castle, and he ate it every day. With an ample supply of wolf meat, the frost wolf breathing technique advanced from level 1 to level 3 in just 4 months. The double blessing was that Levi's black snake breathing technique had also made substantial progress. Chapter 34. Black snake breathing technique, level 3, maximum, the limit can be broken. Frost wolf breathing technique, level 3, 234/10,000. Golden cross / level 3, 9527/10,000, special effect, advanced vibration. Beast taming, level 3, maximum, special effect, wild heart. Forging, level 3, 6666/10,000, special effect, fine grade certainty. Levi looked at the proficiency panel, feeling a sense of accomplishment. The first was the black snake breathing technique. Under the effect of the black snake secret medicine every day, Levi took 2/3 of the time he had originally expected to reach the limit of level 3. However, this was not the limit of the black snake breathing technique. However, there was an important stage that could not be bypassed before the black snake breathing technique could be upgraded from level 3 to level 4. That was the condensation of the life seed. Once the condensation was successful, Levi would become an official knight and have amazing results. As for the frost wolf breathing technique, due to its lower quality, the cultivation of the breathing technique was similar. In addition, Levi was already a quasi-knight, so it was not difficult for him to cultivate it. This bloodline breathing technique was difficult to learn in the early stages. Once it was recorded on the proficiency panel, it would be very easy to cultivate. The frost wolf breathing technique's effects were also particularly remarkable. Levi's flexibility and agility were far beyond what he had before. Some time ago, he had specially gone to the deeper parts of Montenegro Mountain and found a wolf pack made up of more than 10 mountain wolves to test his strength. As a result, without wearing any armor, Levi used the perfected level 3 black snake breathing technique and frost wolf breathing technique, as well as the level 3 golden cross / killing 10 mountain wolves easily. This was already far beyond the standard of a quasi-knight. If an ordinary official knight did not wear armor, they could only deal with a dozen mountain wolves at most. Therefore, Levi estimated that his strength was above that of a quasi-knight and was not weaker than an ordinary official knight. However, he did not have a real opponent to verify his strength. When Sir Fred sparred with Levi, he always unconsciously gave in to Levi, making it difficult to test Levi's true strength. As for his sword skill, golden cross / he was on the verge of breaking through. If everything went well, he would be able to break through to level 4 in the upcoming month of Northern Wind and master the ripple force that Levi had been looking forward to for a long time. On this day, Levi stood on the city gate tower and watched Sir Fred lead a team, pulling a carriage and setting off into the distance. It was time to deliver the goods to the knight from Icewind City. During this period of time, Levi had prepared a total of 12 sets of armor. He kept 5 sets and distributed them to the 5 strongest militiamen under his command. As for the other 7 sets, he let Sir Fred lead the team to deliver the goods to Icewind City and also to buy ambergris. Originally, Levi was the one who did all this himself, but he felt that these few days were the golden time for him to condense his life seed, so he did not want to delay any longer. Therefore, he could only let Sir Fred go in his place. However, with Sir Fred's reliability, Levi believed that nothing would happen. I still have over 300 gold coins in my account. After selling this batch of goods, I should be able to earn another 300 gold coins. 600 gold coins should be enough for me to cultivate for a period of time. Levi muttered to himself. After watching Sir Fred's team disappear on the horizon, Levi turned around, returned to the castle, and closed the door. Next was the most important moment. After cultivating the breathing technique for more than 2 years, he had finally reached the most crucial step from a knight attendant to a quasi-knight. Once he succeeded, Levi would no longer need to be as timid as before. Although an official knight was not invincible, it was enough to deal with most enemies in this world. In the bedroom, Levi, who had recovered to his peak condition, prepared food and water in advance. Looking at the picture of the black snake on the wall, he began to condense the life seed according to the experience that Sir Fred had imparted to him. From the perspective of Levi's previous life, the life seed was similar to the dantian in his previous life. However, the dantian was located in the abdomen, while the life seed was located near the heart. Levi's black snake breathing technique was circulating at a speed far beyond normal. He was performing the posture of the black snake breathing technique over and over again, like a python that was ready to attack. His twisted and knotted muscles contained infinite power. A large amount of white smoke rose from Levi's body. He could feel that the water content in his body was rapidly decreasing, but this was not the time to drink water. Levi endured the extreme discomfort caused by dehydration and continued to circulate the breathing technique. His blood became thicker and thicker. He felt that if this continued, he might die. However, at this critical moment, Levi was not willing to forcefully stop the fight. I must succeed. He used the proficiency panel to work hard bit by bit. How could he fail at the last step? Levi shouted in his heart. As Levi circulated his breathing technique to its peak, a powerful aura surged from his limbs and bones like a tide, flowing through his blood circulation and surging toward his heart. An intense pain came from his left chest. The pain was too painful. Heartache in the literal sense. Levi knew that this was a crucial step in condensing the life seed. If this aura had not entered his heart, Levi could have given up. At most, he could find an opportunity to condense it again in the future. However, once this aura reached his heart, there was no longer the possibility of giving up. If he didn't succeed, then, die. The surging power would blow up the knight's heart and blow up his organs. Many people were simply not determined enough and died at this step. The more shallow the breathing technique, the easier it was to make mistakes in this step. Fortunately, the black snake breathing technique was an excellent breathing technique, so the danger was much lower. The success rate of condensing the life seed was also much higher. Levi's cultivation was based on his proficiency panel. He had to take one step at a time, and his foundation was very solid. In the end, after enduring the intense pain for 5 minutes, Levi, who was pale, finally heaved a sigh of relief. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and laughed loudly. From the millennium to the present year 1006, 6 years had passed. From a page, a knight attendant, to a quasi-knight, and then to the present. He, Levi, was now an official knight. Although Levi did not have X-ray vision, after becoming an official knight, he could vaguely sense that there was a black snake-like gas on the surface of his heart. It was indistinct and winding. At the end of this gas, countless capillary-like things spread out, crawling all over Levi's heart and connecting with all the blood vessels on it. Black gas. Chapter 35. The life seed was just a name, not a real seed. The snake-shaped black mist on the surface of Levi's heart was the life seed cultivated from the black snake breathing technique. It could also be called the black snake seed. The capillary-like things at the end of the black mist were completely connected to Levi's blood circulation system through his heart. From then on, the energy that Levi obtained from eating would be circulated through his blood, promoting the growth and strengthening of the life seed on the surface of his heart. The black gas emitted by the life seed would also flow through Levi's blood circulation system. Under the effect of the breathing technique, it would flow into Levi's limbs and bones. This was the circulation of black gas. The life seed was like a new organ in his body, and with a thought, Levi could control any organ that he wanted. Faint black gas flowed out of the life seed, and finally, it passed through the blood and reached a small area on Levi's arms. At the same time, Levi saw a snake-shaped black gas crawling on the back of his forearm. He felt his muscles tighten. His muscles began to harden in a short period of time. He touched them. The texture was similar to that of a car tire. It was rough and tough. The black snake breathing technique focuses on defense. This defense will first be reflected in the small area on the back of the forearm. This way, even when faced with the enemy's cold weapon barehanded, the hardened area on the forearm can be used to block and defend. I wonder if I can transfer it to my palm. Levi tried, and in the end, he managed to transfer this small piece of black gas to his palm with great difficulty. The black gas on his forearm disappeared. This discovery made Levi ecstatic. When he tried to move it to his left chest, he failed. With his current realm, this black gas could only move in the small area of his forearm and palm. If he wanted the black gas to spread to more places, he would have to constantly strengthen the life seed. In the end, if he could reach the same realm as his father, the black gas would basically cover his entire body. Even the bottom could be covered by the black gas and become a real big black spear. After eating and replenishing his stamina, Levi opened his proficiency panel. Black snake breathing technique, level 4, 1/20,000, special effect, basic defense. The black snake breathing technique has broken through to level 4. It finally has a special effect. Basic defense, by covering part of the body with black gas, it can resist blunt attacks to a certain extent and reduce the damage of sharp attacks. Levi looked at the description of the effects of basic defense and decided to experiment with it. Only by thoroughly knowing one's own strength would one be able to fight better in actual combat. Since Sir Fred was not around, Levi thought for a moment and went to the bear pen of the three brothers. At this moment, the three brothers were happily leaning against the rockery, eating delicious fish meat in a paralyzed posture. "Little White, come here," Levi called out to Little White, who was the calmest of the three brothers. When Little White heard the voice, it immediately ran over and stood up happily, wanting to give Levi a loving hug. Now that the three brothers were almost 3 years old, they stood 3 meters tall. Levi, who was more than 1.8 meters tall, looked like a dwarf in front of Little White. Little White's weight had reached an astonishing 800 kilograms. In his previous life, it was already about the same weight as a large adult male brown bear. Each brother would have the strength of a quasi-knight. If Levi had not just advanced to an official knight and his strength had not been greatly enhanced, he would have been pushed down even if Little White had deliberately used less strength. All right, stop licking. You're going to lick my skin off." Levi laughed and put down Little White. "Come, Little White, use your claws and attack me with half of your strength," Levi ordered. Little White whimpered, clearly not understanding the situation. It did not understand why Levi wanted it to attack him. Little White shook his head like a rattle drum, not daring to make a move. "It's okay. This is my order. Come on." Levi patted Little White's head. Little Gray and Little Fatty also came over to watch the show. Little Fatty looked eager to try. "Go to the side. Your attack is neither light nor heavy." Levi waved at Little Fatty, who left helplessly. In the end, Little White mustered up its courage and got into a battle stance. Levi did not use his knight's sword either. He was half naked and did not even wear any leather armor. "Come on." Levi waved his hand, and Little White rushed over. The bear paw brought the wind with it as it charged toward Levi. Good timing. Levi circulated his black snake breathing technique, and the life seed in his heart quickly sent the black gas through his extraordinary blood circulation to his palms. Levi was sent flying backward. He flipped a few times and deflected the terrifying impact. He used his palm to meet Little White's bear paw. Although he was an official knight, he was not a strength type. His strength was several times that of an ordinary adult, but it was still impossible for him to be a match for the giant bear of the Northern Territory, which weighed 800 kilograms as a cub, even if it only used half of its strength. Levi stretched his muscles and opened his palm. Looking at the black rubber-like palm, scratches appeared. These scratches cut through the black protective film, but they did not hurt Levi's flesh. Ha ha ha, again. Levi had a happy expression on his face as he once again fought with Little White. A man and a bear fought in a primitive melee. Xiao Gray and Little Fatty were cheering for Little White. In the end, Little White panted heavily and sat on the ground. It was obvious that it could not take it anymore. Although Levi was a little tired, he could still fight. If the black membrane on his palm was broken, he could use the black gas to repair it. As long as the black gas in the life seed was not exhausted, it could recover indefinitely. And after his test, under the full strength of the battle, the black gas in his life seed could last for about 5 minutes. Although it wasn't long, it was enough. On the battlefield, many things could be done in 5 minutes. However, in general, the black gas did not increase Levi's strength as much as he had imagined. After all, with the armor, he could not use the black gas. That's enough. With my current strength and the golden cross / that's about to reach level 4, it's definitely not something an ordinary official knight can compare to. Levi muttered to himself. He put on his clothes, bid farewell to the 3 brothers, and returned to his bedroom. The black snake breathing technique required a total of 20,000 proficiency points to break through to level 5. Although an official knight was powerful, it was only the beginning of the knight's path. The difference between an official knight and a grand knight was even greater than the difference between a knight attendant and an official knight. In the entire Emerald Kingdom, there might be thousands of official knights, but there were no more than 100 grand knights. There was still a long way to go on the road of gaining experience. Chapter 36. An official knight was extremely important to any noble force in the kingdom. Even if Levi did not have a territory, he could still rely on his own strength to join the territories of other nobles and become their knight. However, Levi, who was already used to being a lord, naturally did not want to be a slave to others. In his previous life, he had enough of being a dog to capitalists. In this life, he did not want to live at the mercy of others like in his previous life. It's time to celebrate my breakthrough to a knight. I won't cultivate today. I'll have the twin maids give me a massage tonight. Under all kinds of pressure, Levi was like a machine that never stopped, crazily cultivating, working hard, forging, and making money. Although this was extremely fulfilling, humans were not machines after all. They would eventually get tired. Today, he felt that it was time for him to relax for a few days. In the next few days, he did not plan to cultivate the breathing technique. He would sleep and practice the golden cross / A balance between work and rest was life. Cultivation was not the goal. Longevity and freedom were the goals. Cultivation was just a tool. At night, Levi soaked in the bathtub and broke through to become an official knight. He expelled a lot of toxins, and the twin maids massaged his muscles from both sides. Young master, your body is too hard and rough. My hands are hurting. Ariel pouted, inadvertently revealing some of her breasts as she said in a delicate voice. If you're tired, take a rest. Your sister will continue. The 2 of you will take turns. Levi closed his eyes and enjoyed his rare peaceful life. After a peaceful night, Levi returned to his bedroom to rest after his bath. I hope Sir Fred's trip will be successful. Levi was still worried about Sir Fred, not about the goods worth hundreds of gold coins. Sir Fred was the only family that Levi had left in the world, and he did not want to lose him. Just like that, Levi fell into a deep sleep. The starry night was silent. In the dark night, a figure covered in black night clothes sneaked into the black water valley like a ghost. He came to the side of the Black Snake Castle and stood in the valley. He looked at the towering castle built against the mountain and muttered to himself. The location of this castle is not bad. It is easy to defend and difficult to attack. Unfortunately, to me, it is just a decoration. After waiting for 7 days, the Serpent Vulture Knight has finally left. He, Baron Levi, I, Fantasy Goblin Knight, will take your head without hesitation. The man in the knight suit was wearing simple leather armor and was extremely agile. He was Fantasy Goblin Knight and an emotionless assassin. He came from an assassin organization with members all over the kingdom, Sound of a Dead Bird. This was an organization similar to the Assassin Guild. They were scattered all over the country and took orders from the 5 top leaders of the organization. The target of the assassination could be a commoner, a noble, or even an official knight or a member of the royal family. As long as one gave enough money, there would be some powerful assassins who would complete the mission for them. The Fantasy Goblin Knight was one of the assassins. He mainly did assassination missions in the area around Icewind City. He had received an assassination mission from a broker a while ago. The client had a very high status. He didn't even know who the client was, but he didn't care. As long as the money was in place, even if the target was an official knight, Fantasy Goblin Knight would find a way to get rid of him. As a wandering knight, the Fantasy Goblin Knight had no worries. After killing someone, he would flee thousands of miles away. No one could catch him. Ever since his debut, he had completed many assassination missions perfectly. The assassination list included a baron, 3 noble disciples, a countess wife, and even 2 official knights. Therefore, he did not think it would be difficult to assassinate Levi. After all, Levi's squandering and cowardice was well known in some circles that were familiar with the Black Snake Knight. However, a truly dedicated killer would go all out even if he had to kill a 100-year-old woman. Therefore, the Fantasy Goblin Knight was fully armed with hooks, daggers, poison, quicklime, and everything else. He carefully approached the castle. There were soldiers patrolling below the castle. Under the cover of the night, he observed his surroundings and decided to climb over the wall with the least soldiers. He would then find Levi's bedroom and quickly assassinate the sleeping Levi. Then, he would bring Levi's head to collect the commission money. Perfect plan. The Fantasy Goblin Knight sneered in his heart. He found the wall with the weakest defense. There was only a sleepy soldier under this wall. He slowly approached and relied on his movement technique and agility to circle around the soldier's back. Shadow Lord. The Fantasy Goblin Knight didn't believe in the Heavenly Father but in a very unpopular Shadow Lord. This god's authority was slaughter, deception, and shadow. He was the object of faith for most assassins and a small number of schemers and politicians. After that, he cleanly dealt with the soldier. The soldier was just an ordinary person. Although he had received training, he was still far inferior to an official knight like the Fantasy Goblin Knight. The corpse of the soldier quickly turned cold in the season of the northern wind. The Fantasy Goblin Knight didn't care about the corpse. He would have disappeared into the wilderness before the sun rose tomorrow anyway. He used the grappling hook to climb over the high wall and gently jumped down. He landed perfectly and elegantly patted the dust off his body before raising his head. He found 3 huge shadows curiously sizing him up. These 3 shadows were Little White, Little Gray, and Little Fatty. The back of this wall with the weakest defense was the bear pen of the 3 brothers. The Fantasy Goblin Knight had never thought that he would one day sneak into the castle and face 3 bears. Damn it, Levi, that damned B*TCH. He actually raised bears in the castle. Shadow Lord, these aren't ordinary bears, but giant bears of the Northern Territory, even though it doesn't look mature yet. The fantasy goblin knight exclaimed in his heart. The three brothers were also dumbfounded. When the fantasy goblin knight was outside, they smelled an unfamiliar smell approaching the castle. Levi's training for them included familiarizing themselves with the scent of every soldier and servant in the castle. This way, if any strangers approached, they would be able to sense them immediately. Therefore, the fantasy goblin knight thought that his infiltration was flawless, but he didn't know that he had been discovered by the three brothers. Now, he had to face the attacks of three giant bears of the Northern Territory. Even though they were still cubs, this made the fantasy goblin knight, an official knight, feel a little nervous. Damn it! After this mission is completed, I will ask for more money. Chapter 37. The three brothers rushed toward the stranger at the same time. This was the order that Levi had been instilling in them. If any stranger did not enter through the main entrance, they would be killed immediately. The fantasy goblin knight's body tensed up. Damned beasts, how dare you attack an official knight? If you were adults, I would leave without looking back if there were only one of you, let alone three. But now, you're just a bunch of little fellows. The fantasy goblin knight's siren breathing technique was rapidly circulating. The siren breathing technique was a shallow non-bloodline breathing technique. The focus of this breathing technique was speed and flexibility. Other than that, it had another function, which was that it had extremely strong flexibility like the eight-clawed siren. He could change his body shape by shrinking his bones, and increasing his flexibility and agility. The fantasy goblin knight shrunk his bone to make his body smaller and more powerful. This gave him a huge increase in speed and agility. He was like a nimble gopher, moving freely between the three brothers' attacks, dancing elegantly. Although the three brothers' attacks were swift and fierce, they basically couldn't touch the fantasy goblin knight. I told you, you guys are no match for me. If I wasn't in a hurry, I would definitely use my ring-tailed sea snake dagger to make you three beasts bleed to death. The fantasy goblin knight quickly jumped over the bear pen and disappeared into the night. The three brothers roared in the direction where the fantasy goblin knight had disappeared, but they were clumsy and could not get out. However, the commotion still alerted the patrolling soldiers. When they rushed over, they looked at the anxious three brothers and did not know what had happened. Thinking that the three brothers were hungry, the soldiers hurriedly went to find food for the three brothers. At the same time, they strengthened their patrols and vigilance. On the other side, after the fantasy goblin knight got rid of the three giant bears, he elegantly tidied up his clothes and put on a black crow mask that looked like a crow's mouth. This was the Bird of Death mask, the standard mask of the Bird of Death's voice organization. Firstly, it was to prevent people from seeing the face clearly. Secondly, this mask also had anti-gas and dust-proof effects. This way, when the killer used quicklime or other poisonous gas to attack the target, he would not accidentally hurt himself. What was professionalism? This was called professionalism. Bird of Death's voice, an absolutely professional assassination team. The fantasy goblin knight did not only do this job for money. He had been in this job for more than 10 years and had already earned thousands of gold coins through assassination missions. This was more than many small nobles, enough for him to live out his old age and the rest of his life. But he didn't do that. He liked this kind of life where he danced on the edge of a knife, and the money he earned was squandered by him. Killing people was such a wonderful thing. Every perfect assassination was like creating a beautiful music piece of death. The fantasy goblin knight could not help but hum a warm nursery rhyme from his hometown. Little white rabbit, cute little white rabbit. I'm going to pluck your fur. Little white rabbit, obedient little white rabbit. I'll pull out your head first. Little white rabbit, a kind little white rabbit. Then I'll pull out your tail. The fantasy goblin knight used his skilled lock-picking skills to gently open Levi's door. There was almost no sound during the process. A qualified killer had to learn how to use stealth. He walked to Levi's bedside like a musical talisman. On the bed, Baron Levi was lying on his side, sleeping with a blanket over him. His breathing was steady, and his expression was relaxed. He was snoring softly, and it seemed like he was sleeping soundly. The fantasy goblin knight pulled out his dagger and gently smeared poison on the blade. Dying in your sleep is the kindness bestowed upon you by the Shadow Lord. Goodbye, Baron Levi. The fantasy goblin knight thought. The sharp dagger stabbed toward Levi's heart. This sharp dagger would crush Levi's heart, and for safety's sake, even if he did not die from the first strike, the super poison from the ring-tailed sea snake would quickly spread throughout Levi's body through his blood, killing him. However, in the next moment, a pitch-black palm grabbed the fantasy goblin knight's right arm and snatched his dagger. All of this happened too quickly. It was as if Levi had not slept at all and had long been prepared. The fantasy goblin knight felt as if he was being grabbed by a huge force. The siren breathing technique he had cultivated was at the shallow level. Although it was much stronger than the average person, it was still nothing compared to Levi's excellent level black snake breathing technique. He grabbed the fantasy goblin knight's collar and stood up. His 1.8-meter tall body stood on the bed and pulled the fantasy goblin knight up. He was wearing 2 layers of chainmail vest and a piece of heart armor with a black snake pattern engraved on it. Levi had always slept like this. This was the only way he dared to sleep. Therefore, even if the fantasy goblin knight stabbed his heart, it wouldn't harm him. You want to harm me? Levi had indeed been sleeping, but after he was awakened by the 3 brothers' roars, he did not fall asleep again. He was only pretending to be asleep. According to his training requirements for the 3 brothers, if they found someone climbing over the wall, they had to roar. Therefore, Levi guessed that someone had sneaked into his castle, and those who could climb over the wall and enter the castle were most likely experts, and it was very likely that they were coming for him. He pretended to be asleep to see what the infiltrator was up to. As expected, a stranger in black came to his room and actually wanted to assassinate him. He looked like he was sleeping, but in fact, he was already prepared to face the enemy. The fantasy goblin knight's left hand turned into a claw and clawed at Levi's face. Levi cultivated the frost wolf breathing technique, so he dodged the fantasy goblin knight's attack very quickly. Then, he grabbed the fantasy goblin knight's arm and twisted it. With a crack, the fantasy goblin knight's arm broke. He was in extreme pain, but that was not the end. Levi grabbed his other arm and twisted it. Then, Levi jumped down from the bed and threw the fantasy goblin knight onto the hard floor and the floor cracked. Even as an official knight, all the ribs in the fantasy goblin knight's body were broken. He spat out a mouthful of blood. His mind was a mess. With Baron Levi's speed and strength, he was definitely an official knight. And it seemed that he had been an official knight for a long time. Wasn't Levi only 15 years old? That burly figure, that devil-like muscles, that explosive power, and that black palm that looked like a demonic claw. Damn it! Was this 15 years old? He had prepared a lot of backup plans, but at this moment, he was caught off guard and was directly beaten by Levi until he was paralyzed. Levi was worried that the person who had appeared in his bedroom and tried to assassinate him would have other means to harm him, so he planned to knock this person out first. After he had complete control over him, he would ask who sent him to assassinate him. Then, he subconsciously punched the fantasy goblin knight's head with all his might. In the next moment, there was a crack. His head cracked. Levi stood rooted to the ground and thought, "Oh no, I just advanced to an official knight. I didn't control my strength well. The killer died just like that. Damn it, was he that strong?" Chapter 38. Although this was not the first time Levi had killed someone, it was his first time killing someone in his own bedroom. He looked at the corpse on the ground and took off the black metal mask. The head that was split open could no longer be seen clearly. How unlucky. I have to change rooms to sleep in tomorrow. But I really don't know this person. He should be an assassin hired by my enemy. The problem is, I'm just a teenager who has never provoked anyone. Who would send someone to kill me? For a moment, Levi began to recall his life where he had been kind to others. In the end, he could only think of two people who might have motives to kill him. One was Priest Abraham. After all, he had just rejected the church a while ago, and he had not treated the high and mighty priest nicely. It was indeed possible that he would kill him. The second possibility was the Duke of Montenegro and the two earls closest to him, the Earl of Silver Silk and the Earl of Blood. After all, these people had occupied his territory. Although he might not care on the surface, these people knew that if he really grew into a person like the Black Snake Knight one day, he might take back his territory. Therefore, they might as well go all out and kill the Black Snake family completely. But if that was the case, why did they let me go back then? This doesn't make sense. Levi muttered to himself. Or, it was done by that old dog Abraham. In short, other than these two, I don't think I have any conflicts of interest or grudges with anyone else. Could it be the work of the Wild Boar Gang? They stole my people before, and now they want to kill me. However, the Wild Boar Gang is an evil force in the underground world. They shouldn't hire assassins. They're not afraid of losing their reputation. Levi paced back and forth in the room, feeling a little frustrated. I've been so low-key and tolerant. Why do you still want to kill me? No, I have to think of a way to find out who wants to harm me. Once I find out, and if I can defeat him, I have to get rid of this person. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep or eat in peace. His castle was surrounded by high walls, and soldiers were patrolling it. This killer was able to sneak in so easily, so his strength was definitely not weak. Moreover, he was good at stealth. Thinking of this, Levi took out a knife and cut open the assassin's chest. On the assassin's heart, there was an illusory black gaseous object that looked like an octopus lurking on it. Countless capillaries were rooted in the heart. Life seed. As expected, this person is an official knight. The mastermind behind this must be extraordinary if they sent an official knight to deal with me. Levi's expression was uncertain. Following the killer's death, the octopus-shaped life seed began to slowly dissipate. Levi watched silently. This was his first time dissecting an official knight. As expected, similar to the situation in his body, there was a similar life seed in his heart. However, his life seed was in the shape of a snake, while this life seed was in the shape of an octopus. Levi took off the assassin's clothes and searched for some clues. In the end, he found a booklet in the inner lining of the killer's clothes. There were only a few pages in the booklet, and the cover was a figure hidden in the shadows. The style was dark and strange. The Tribute of Shadows. Levi muttered in his heart and opened the booklet. The content inside was similar to some religious books. The entire book introduced a god. Shadow Lord. Shadow Lord? Never heard of it? Levi shook his head. Although the number of gods in this world wasn't a lot, there were still quite a few. In addition to the Heavenly Father that the Church of Holy Light believed in, there was also the Mother of Earth of the Church of Earth, the Snow Goddess of the Church of Winter, the Lord of Storm of the Church of Storms, the Eternal Fire of the Church of Eternal Life, the King of 10,000 Dragons of the Church of the Dragon, and the Lord of the Stars of the Church of the Stars. These seven were the seven orthodox gods that the people of the seven kingdoms believed in. The reason why the seven orthodox gods were called orthodox gods was that the churches they belonged to had great influence in the seven countries, and they called themselves orthodox gods. Other than the seven orthodox gods, Levi knew of the Lord of the Wilderness Brotherhood, the Lady Silence of the Silent Monastery, and the god of war that some war enthusiasts believed in. Therefore, it was normal that Levi did not know about the Shadow Lord. In essence, this Bird of Death's voice was an organization with very few people. There were not many people who believed in the Shadow Lord, so it wasn't widely spread. In the past, Levi would not have cared much about these gods, but after confirming the existence of wizards, he realized that some myths and legends might not be as simple as he thought. If this world could have wizards who mastered supernatural powers, why wouldn't there be more powerful gods? Levi was still very respectful toward the gods. Although he did not believe in these things, he respected the beliefs of others, but the premise was that they did not harm him. After Levi finished reading the Tribute of Shadows, he discovered that on the last page of the booklet, there was actually an inheritance diagram of a breathing technique. The inheritance diagram was similar to the breathing technique inheritance diagram that Levi had previously obtained. However, in the middle of the small person's images was a turbulent sea. In the middle of the sea was a huge sea monster that looked like an octopus. It was a bit like the sea monster legends that had been circulating in parts of Europe in his previous life, North Sea Kraken. There are people who carry the breathing technique inheritance with them. Levi found it funny. What he didn't know was that the siren breathing technique was the most common breathing technique used by the members of the Bird of Death's voice organization. This organization would give some manuals with the siren breathing technique to the children of civilians who they thought had potential but didn't have the ancestral breathing technique. They would train their killer skills from a young age and provide resources for them to practice the siren breathing technique. This way, they could ensure that the organization had fresh blood at all times. The siren breathing technique was a breathing technique that was extremely suitable for assassination. It emphasized the flexibility and agility of the body. When cultivated to the level of an official knight, it could even change a person's body shape through a principle similar to the bone shrinking technique. If it was combined with some makeup techniques, it could even change one's appearance. In fact, if the fantasy goblin knight had not underestimated his enemy and gotten too close to Levi, catching him off guard, even if Levi was an official knight, it would not have been so easy to kill the fantasy goblin knight. Levi put away the Tribute of Shadows, which contained the breathing technique inheritance diagram, along with the crow's mouth mask, the dagger, and other assassination tools. Levi tore the worthless killer's corpse into pieces and threw it into the burning fireplace. He watched the corpse burn in the fire while it crackled and emitted a charred smell. Vaguely, Levi seemed to see the shadow of 8 claws dancing wildly in the flames and gradually disappearing. When he focused his attention, all that was left was a charred skeleton. Breathing techniques are really strange. Levi's heart was calm. Chapter 39. Up until now, all the breathing techniques that Levi knew were related to various creatures, and these creatures often became the family emblem of the nobles, engraved on their coat of arms. For example, the black snake of the Schneider family, the rock bear of the rock bear family, the silver frost wolf of the frost wolf family, the black whale of the Montenegro mountain family, and the emerald dragon of the royal family. All breathing techniques were related to these creatures that did not actually exist in this world. In order to publicize their noble bloodline, the major families would make up all kinds of legends and make their family emblems the protagonists of these legends. For example, the Black Snake family's Black Snake with a Candle. Levi had been influenced by his father since he was young. The Black Snake with a Candle was a snake of hope that brought light to the chaotic and dark world, the holy snake of salvation. However, after cultivating some other breathing techniques and seeing some unbelievable phenomena, Levi had some guesses in his heart. However, he still needed to see more breathing techniques in the future or even become a legendary knight to verify these guesses. The dagger that the fantasy goblin knight used to assassinate Levi was a short dagger that was about a foot long. The end of the dagger was curved like a snake's tail. There's a high chance that this dagger has been smeared with poison. I have to be careful. The workmanship of this dagger is actually just so-so, but the material is very good. It seems that some rare metal has been melted into it. I can remelt it and make a short dagger that suits me. This way, it will be convenient for me to defend myself. Levi muttered to himself. With his current level 3 forging, this was not a problem. This mask is a bit like the beak mask from the Black Death in medieval Europe. It has a high probability of preventing poisonous gas. And this bag of lime is too sinister. Luckily, I reacted fast enough and didn't give this person a chance to attack. Otherwise, I would really be in danger. Levi examined the killer's tools one by one and felt that the power behind him was not ordinary. When Sir Fred comes back, I'll ask him. He has been to many places since he was young and is knowledgeable. He might know something. After a sleepless night, Levi did not dare to sleep, so he decided to cultivate the breathing technique instead. After the assassination attempt, Levi became even more vigilant. He felt that it was not safe to sleep in a bedroom that was easy to find. He decided to build a shelter in the castle that only he and Fred knew the location of. He would store supplies and set up some alarm mechanisms in the shelter. He would sleep there at night. In order to survive in this dark era, it was not too much to be cautious. In the morning, after Levi finished practicing the breathing technique, he heard the noise of the militia outside. He walked out and found the corpse of a soldier lying there. It was already cold. "My lord, someone killed Poke last night." One of the militia captains looked terrified and incredulous. His soldiers had died silently in the cold night, and he didn't even know it. Levi knew that the assassin had most likely killed them when he snuck in. "Cremate Poke and send some food and money to Poke's wife," Levi said to the butler. "No matter who the murderer is, I will find him and give my people an explanation. Also, increase the patrols in the future. Stay alert at night. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Levi's gaze was cold as he looked at the soldiers. He didn't tell these people what happened last night. And after what happened, he couldn't guarantee that there was no mole among his men. This assassination attempt did not stop Levi's progress. Since his breathing technique was at a bottleneck, he began to focus on cultivating the only sword technique he had mastered, the golden cross slash. After this crisis, Levi learned the importance of strength. If he didn't advance to a knight, what could he do even if he discovered the assassination? It would still be a dead end. It was precisely because he had cultivated the excellent grade breathing technique that he possessed strength that surpassed that of an ordinary knight. In addition, he had also cultivated the Frost Wolf breathing technique, which made up for his lack of speed and agility. That was why Levi had survived. Levi felt that he had taken the right path. He wanted to cultivate more breathing techniques to strengthen his physical body in all aspects, including speed, strength, physique, endurance, and defense. He wanted to master more combat techniques and life-saving methods to make himself a completely multi-talented warrior. He wanted to have an invincible panel and become a man who had an invincible buff the moment he appeared. Perhaps the level of his breathing technique was very low, but by relying on sheer numbers, Levi felt that one day, he might be able to become truly extraordinary through his physical body. After 2 days of crazy training, on a sunny morning in the training ground, Levi's arm shook quickly, and all the power in his body gathered. A whip-like sound broke through the air, and the frost morn in his right hand swept through the air, creating circles of ripples. Then, a force that was many times more powerful than the vibration force was transmitted from Frostmourne to a metal plate that was half a finger thick. It was as if Frostmourne has torn through a layer of leather. With Frostmourne's sword tip as the center, the iron plate began to crack and roll outward as if it had been penetrated by an armor-piercing bullet, revealing a fist-sized hole. Frostmourne's blade also wailed. It seemed that even the sword itself could not withstand such a force. Golden Cross Slash has broken through to level 4. Special effect, Elementary Ripple. Levi was overjoyed. Ripple Force. Ha 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 ha. Tisk tisk tisk, This is the power of my ripple force. Levi's excitement was indescribable. This terrifying lethality was almost like cutting through iron. This was the ripple force that Fred had mentioned. Levi had actually mastered it in just 3 years. Of course, the biggest credit is still the proficiency panel. With my talent, it will take me at least 15 years to master ripple force. Even Sir Fred took a long time to master it. My talent is far inferior to Sir Fred's. Levi knew his limits and was not arrogant. My current achievements are all the credit of the proficiency panel. Levi sighed in his heart. With the thought, he opened the proficiency panel. Black Snake Breathing Technique, Level 4, 56/20,000, Special Effect, Basic Defense. Frost Wolf Breathing Technique, Level 3, 321/10,000. Golden Cross / Level 4, 1/20,000. Special Effect, Advanced Vibration, Elementary Ripple. Chapter 40. Ripple Force. The second realm of the Golden Cross / It was a technique that was more advanced than the vibration force. It was not until the moment he mastered this power that Levi realized how wonderful the world of swordsmanship was. Sir Fred once said that if I mastered ripple force, it's equivalent to mastering a sword skill that's at least at the excellent level. With my excellent level Black Snake Breathing Technique, excellent level Golden Cross / and level 3 Frost Wolf Breathing Technique, I wonder how strong I am. Fred should be back soon. I have to spar with him. However, I have only mastered the elementary level of ripple force. Fred has been immersed in ripple force for more than 10 years. Perhaps he has mastered the advanced level of the skill. I can't be arrogant. Levi felt relieved. The emotions that he had been suppressing for too long were finally released after he had broken through in his breathing technique and Golden Cross / The night stage can be divided into 4 stages: low-level night, mid-level night, high-level night, and peak night. I've just broken through, so I should only be a low-level night. However, my true strength should be at the mid-level. Levi wanted to test his own strength, but no one in the territory was a match for him. Furthermore, it was difficult for Levi to use a killer move like the Golden Cross / on his own people. Forget it. I'll do forging and stabilize my realm first. Currently, Levi had already treated forging as a way to improve his mood and strengthen his mental state. Forging was a skill that tested patience and concentration. In Levi's opinion, breathing technique cultivation and forging complemented and promoted each other. It was especially suitable to cultivate together. The furnace started to burn, and the bellows started to blow. The dagger that Levi had obtained from the unknown assassin was reforged. Crackling, crackling, ping, ping, ping. Beneath the blast furnace, Levi was sweating. Time passed slowly, and a pitch-black dagger gradually took shape under Levi's tempering. After a series of quenching and other processes, a dagger appeared in Levi's hand. Forging proficiency +2. Compared to the previous dagger, which had a strange and curved shape, the shape of Levi's recast dagger was closer to the bronze short sword from the Warring States period in his previous life. Levi fiddled with it for a while and even tried to use the high-level technique of exerting force like ripple force. In the end, he succeeded. As Sir Fred had said, the Golden Cross / was more like a force-exerting technique than a sword technique. If it reached a certain unfathomable realm, even a hammer or even a Gatling gun could exert ripple force. However, Levi could only use the ripple force through such sharp weapons. He also realized that compared to his sword, Frostmourne, this dagger could withstand the torture of the ripple force more easily. It's still a problem with the material. Frostmourne is only made of ordinary iron. Although the workmanship and quality are good, it's obviously not enough to use ripple force as I wish. If only I had those high-tech alloys from my previous life. When I have the chance in the future, I'll still have to use better materials to forge a personal sword for myself. After the forging was done, Levi returned to the castle and began to build a secret room that belonged to him. The next morning, Sir Fred brought a group of people back to Black Snake Castle. "How's the situation?" asked Levi with a smile. "Young Master Levi, I'm glad I didn't fail you." Sir Fred dismounted and handed a bag to Levi. Levi opened it and saw a bottle of ambergris and a pile of gold coins. "Thank you, Fred." With that, Levi's heart was finally at ease. Thinking about it, it made sense. As an official knight, Sir Fred would not get into trouble unless he took the initiative to cause trouble. "Does the Jade Chamber of Commerce have ambergris in stock now?" Levi asked. Sir Fred shook his head. "No, the people from the Chamber of Commerce said that the ambergris has been out of stock for a long time. I only found out the reason after asking around. The dragon breathing technique practiced by the White Horse Knight and other royal families also requires ambergris as a secret medicine ingredient. It would have been fine in the past, but because of the Millennium Holy War, the Tuva Empire, which is the main producer of ambergris, has banned the export of ambergris to the Emerald Kingdom. The number of earthly dragon beasts in the Emerald Kingdom is pitifully small, almost extinct, causing ambergris to become increasingly scarce. If this continues, we might have to go to the Tuva Empire to get ambergris in the future," Sir Fred said. Levi frowned. He did not expect that the war would affect him in such a way. "However, the ambergris I have now is enough for me to use for a period of time. I'm not in a hurry, but I still have to find a way to solve it. The black snake secret medicine is very helpful for cultivating the black snake breathing technique. Not only can it increase my cultivation speed, but it can also continuously strengthen my physique. I can't stop taking the medicine." Levi pondered. "Right, it seems like you've already become an official knight, young Master Levi?" Sir Fred asked with a smile after returning to the meeting hall. "That's right, Fred. A few days ago, I officially became a knight and condensed the life seed." Levi did not hide anything from Sir Fred. Sir Fred was someone he could trust. If he wanted to betray him, he would have died countless times. "Becoming an official knight in 3 years. Your speed is not inferior to a genius like your father. If your father saw your current achievements, he would be so happy." Unfortunately, Sir Fred sighed. If only the old master was still alive. He could not help but mutter. After the master and servant were feeling sad, Levi told Knight Fred about the assassination that night. Sir Fred blamed himself for not being by Levi's side, which led to the assassination. Then, he held the beak mask and said slowly with a serious expression, "This is the Bird of Death mask." Bird of Death. Yes, according to the rumors, the Bird of Death is a black divine bird that stands on the shoulder of the god of death. The Bird of Death looks like a crow, and people will die once it opens its mouth. There is an organization, and its members will walk in the human world with the appearance of the Bird of Death. They will accept huge commissions from others and assassinate anyone, whether they are civilians, nobles, or even the royal family. This organization is extremely mysterious. In the history of the kingdom, their shadows can be seen in some major events. This organization is called the Bird of Death's Voice. Rumor has it that the founder of this organization is a legendary knight. Who is it? The Thousand-Faced Knight, Nameless. Chapter 41. Chapter 41, Thousand-Faced Knight. Chapter 41, Thousand-Faced Knight. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio. Nameless Thousand-Faced Knight. He was probably the most mysterious legendary knight in history. No one knew his name or when he became a legend, and no one had seen his appearance. His title was simply Thousand-Faced Knight. This was how it was deeply imprinted in the hearts of many people in the future. This was a nameless legend. If the Thousand-Faced Knight founded the Bird of Death's Voice, then this organization was mighty. Levi asked, "Fred, who do you think might want to get rid of me?" It's most likely the Duke of Montenegro, said Fred after some thought. Levi said, but the Duke of Montenegro had the chance to get rid of me 6 years ago. Sir Fred responded, that's different. 6 years ago, it was the time of the Holy War. Your father had just died. It would have been easy to cause some unnecessary trouble to get rid of you at that time. But now, 6 years have passed. The Black Snake Knights have turned into the dust of history. As the heir of the Black Snake Knights, you have long disappeared from everyone's sight. It is the most appropriate time to find a killer to eliminate you and prevent future troubles. However, the Duke of Montenegro probably did not expect that in just 6 years, you have grown from a child to a real knight. Levi wondered, could it be Abraham from the church? It's possible, but the probability is not high. If the church wanted to make a move on you, there's no need to go through so much trouble. After all, to the Duke, killing a noble for no reason would require him to be wary of the kingdom's laws and the rules between nobles. However, to the church, they were the law in the presence of Heavenly Father. Moreover, Abraham only recognizes money. We agreed to give him money, so he would not do this. Sir Fred's analysis made sense to Levi. From the looks of it now, it was highly likely that it was the Duke of Montenegro. After all, these people had occupied Tulip Hill and Storm Hill for so long. But there was still a grudge that made them concerned. That was him, the son of the Black Snake. Although he appeared weak and incompetent, he could not rule out the possibility that the fallen nobles would rise and take revenge, just like in the legends. As long as there was a slight possibility, it would cause trouble for the Duke of Montenegro. It had been 6 years since the Holy War, and no one remembered the Black Snake Knights. No one cared about a minor baron in such a remote area. At this time, it would be appropriate to hire an assassin in his territory and kill him without anyone knowing. It's quite difficult to be a noble. I've tried to show that I'm not interested in power. I've tried to keep a low profile and live as much as possible in my world. I don't get involved in worldly disputes, but some big shots are always used to looking at me with the eyes of power. They treat me as an imaginary enemy, a weed that gets in the way by the roadside and wants to pull me out. These big shots could do anything with a flip of their hands. They were far-sighted, scheming, high and mighty, and looked down on everyone. Levi, an ordinary person who was not good at power struggles, could do only one thing. He would silently increase his proficiency until his strength was enough to change everything. Then, he would crush their heads and trample on their dignity. Sir Fred looked at the red-eyed Levi and suddenly said, "Young Master Levi, although you've advanced to an official knight, you're still far from being able to fight the Duke of Montenegro. Even the Earl of Blood and the Earl of Silver Silk are grand knights, let alone the Duke of Montenegro, one of the 7 Northern 7 Flying Cavalry. They are far stronger than us in terms of personal and military strength. You can't be rash. Don't worry, Fred. I know what I'm doing. From now on, we'll live as usual. We'll keep half of the defensive equipment we forge monthly. If we can, I want to buy war horses and train our militia into real cavalry. A fully armed, well-trained, agile cavalry team can also greatly increase our strength." Levi told him about his plans. Cavalry was a must. In this era of cold weapons, cavalry was essential. An official knight might be able to deal with 10 well-trained ordinary soldiers alone, but he could not deal with a team of 10 cavalry. A war horse that weighed hundreds of kilograms, coupled with its heavy armor, brandishing its spear, hammer, and great sword, would bring terrifying impact. If Levi had a 50-man cavalry, he could take down more than 2/3 of the barons. If he had a few hundred cavalry, he would not be afraid even if it was an earl's territory. As for a few thousand cavalry, the impact would be unimaginable. During the Millennium Holy War, the Jade King launched a war against the Tuva Empire. In the king's name, he only recruited more than 20,000 cavalry from the nobles. In short, although knights were influential in this world, the number of troops, equipment, and especially cavalry determined the direction of large-scale wars. Levi originally had no intention of expanding his army. At first, he only wanted to earn money for his cultivation. However, he realized that he was wrong. Once he sat in this position, he would have to face diverse challenges all the time. He had to develop his military strength to protect himself. Levi's route was to take the fine route and get a fully armed cavalry first. The construction of the cavalry and the issue of weapons and equipment would eventually fall into place by relying on the territory's forging industry. However, the war horses that the cavalry needed gave Levi the biggest headache. As far as Levi knew, a high-grade pure bloodline Alpine warhorse would cost 80 gold coins. If Levi wanted to form a complete 50-man cavalry unit, ignoring the weapons and armor, the war horses would cost several thousand gold coins. And this was the cost of buying them. War horses needed to consume tens of kilograms of feed every day. To ensure nutrition, the meal must be mixed with human food. They would burn a lot of money in total. However, when he thought about the possible dangers in the future, Levi felt that he still had to do it, but he had to be wise about his spending. Ultimately, it was a problem about earning enough money. Sir Fred suddenly said, "I agree with young master's idea about the cavalry. In the future, cavalry is indispensable to reclaim the Black Snake family's territory. However, our finances cannot support the cavalry at this stage." "Oh, right, there's something else that I think I need to tell you. I think I know who the knight you traded with is." Wild Boar Knight. Chapter 42. Chapter 42, Extreme Frost Wolf, Second Life Seed. Chapter 42, Extreme Frost Wolf, Second Life Seed. Wild Boar Knight. That's right. When the Wild Boar gang took away old Toby, I investigated this person, so I shouldn't be mistaken. I didn't expect him to appear in Icewind City so openly after joining the Wilderness Brotherhood, said Sir Fred. Levi was also amazed. He did not expect that himself selling his weapon to his potential enemy. After all, the Wild Boar Knight had stolen old Toby, and Levi had always wanted revenge. "The Wild Boar Knight didn't recognize you, did he?" asked Levi. Sir Fred responded, "No, we were all wearing masks. After I saw that it might be Wild Boar Knight from afar, I asked our militia to trade with him. After all, he made his name as Don Swordsman. If he met the Wild Boar Knight directly, even wearing a mask, there was a slight chance he would be recognized." Sir Fred was still very cautious. Sir Fred asked hesitantly, "Will we still trade with the Wild Boar Knight in the future?" Levi thought momentarily and said, "Although the Wild Boar Knight is my enemy, I'm still very cool about payment. Let's not alert the enemy for the time being. Let's continue the transaction first. We'll find a more suitable time to fall out." Sir Fred asked again, "Then do we need to do something to the armor that we sell? For example, we can sell some armor that looks the same but has a problem with the quality. Otherwise, wouldn't this deal increase the enemy's strength?" "There's no need. The Wild Boar Knight is an official blacksmith. If I do something, he will likely discover it and become suspicious. There's no need to worry too much about boosting the enemy's strength. After the Wild Boar gang joins the Wilderness Brotherhood, the enemy they face is not us, but the church, the kingdom, and the entire aristocratic ruling class. With the size of the Wild Boar gang, it's impossible for them to utilize many weapons and equipment. There's a high chance that he prepared them for the Wilderness Brotherhood. That must be it. Previously, Wild Boar Knight invited me to join a mysterious organization when he met me. It was highly likely that he wanted to pull me in and forge armor for them. All in all, we are not the Wild Boar gang's target. The weapons and equipment we sold to them are just a drop in the ocean to the Wilderness Brotherhood. In that case, we might as well let nature take its course and earn money from the Wilderness Brotherhood first. When the time is right, for example, When the rebels of the Wilderness Brotherhood rise, we'll fish in troubled waters and snatch back old Toby and all the things we sold to the Wild Boar Gang. Levi sneered, take this money as compensation for the Wild Boar Gang taking away old Toby. What Levi did not lack was patience. With the proficiency panel, the speed of his cultivation was far faster than usual. As time passed, the difference in strength between Levi and the rest of the world would only grow. What Wild Boar Gang? What Duke of Montenegro? Once he became a legendary knight, whether it was his strength or the followers gathered by his powerful emotional appeal, he could destroy them. Levi was only 15 years old. Time was always on his side. It was the first month of the year 1007 of the Holy Brilliance calendar. In the Blackwater Valley's Black Snake Castle, 3 months after the assassination, Levi finally built his shelter in the castle. To be more precise, the shelter was not inside the castle but in the mountains behind the castle. A tunnel connected to the court led to the underground level of Levi's palace, where the black snake breathing technique was hidden. The shelter was not very big, only 20 square meters. Levi had dug it out bit by bit. For confidentiality and safety, he did not even ask the serfs for help. He had used the golden cross slash to dig this out. Sir Fred was the only one who knew he was busy with this. He was speechless. Levi's shelter had a lot of dried meat, food, and clean water. It looked like a doomsday shelter. The small space in the shelter gave Levi a sense of security, similar to how he felt when he was hiding under his blanket when he was young. Levi was half naked on the shelter's ground and practicing breathing techniques. Suddenly, Levi opened his eyes. His gaze was like lightning, and he exhaled a mouthful of white gas. The white gas shot like an arrow about 10 feet long. He stood up, his bones cracking as he revealed a satisfied smile. He ate some food to replenish his nutrients. His aura seemed to be stronger than it was 3 months ago. His muscles were more perfect and well proportioned. Even the governor of his previous life, Arnold Schwarzenegger, paled compared to his body. His skin was a light bronze color that stood out from the standard white. He was almost 1.9 meters tall, and his arms were probably as thick as the thighs of many adult men. One could imagine the power contained in them. It was hard to imagine that he was only a 16-year-old child. Levi was delighted with his majestic and masculine appearance. This was what his idea of a man should look like. He was no longer a skinny little boy. Besides digging tunnels and building shelters, Levi's training did not slow down during these 3 months, especially his golden cross / training that hones digging and crushing stone skills. His proficiency increased at a crazy rate, by 4,000 points in 3 months. The progress bar of 20,000 points was 1/5 completed in 3 months. As for the black snake breathing technique, due to the enhancement of the black snake secret medicine, his proficiency had also increased by 5,000 points. At this rate, with a constant supply of the black snake secret medicine, Levi could upgrade the black snake breathing technique by 5 levels by the end of this year and become a mid-level knight. However, Levi had already used up the black snake secret medicine. If he wanted to level up quickly, he would have to think of a way to obtain ambergris. Therefore, he decided to end his seclusion and leave the house again. He wanted to find a way to get more ambergris at once. Besides the black snake breathing technique, his frost wolf breathing technique also improved rapidly. Levi's aura was more potent because his frost wolf breathing technique had just broken through to tier 4. With the foundation of the black snake breathing technique and an ample supply of secret medicine, it was easy for Levi to condense a life seed again. In addition, his frost wolf breathing technique was already at the shallow level. The difficulty of cultivating this breathing technique was on a completely different level compared to the black snake breathing technique. With all these conditions combined, Levi had only practiced this breathing technique for half a year since he started and had already advanced from level 1 to level 4. After this breathing technique reached level 4, on the surface of Levi's heart, Next to the life seed black snake seed, formed by the black snake breathing technique, a black wolf-shaped mist developed beside the black snake mist. This wolf-shaped mist was the life seed condensed by Levi's frost wolf breathing technique, frost wolf seed. That's right, there were 2 life seeds in Levi's body. Chapter 43, Beginner's Speed, like a leopard. Chapter 43, Beginner's Speed, like a leopard. Levi did not know if he was the only one with 2 life seeds, but there were not many, even if such people existed. After his excitement, Levi opened his proficiency panel. Levi. Frost Wolf Breathing Technique, Level 4, Maximum, Special Effect, Beginner. Speed. This was a maximum of Level 4? As expected, shallow breathing methods were fragile. Levi suddenly felt a little disappointed. Now he finally understood how important a good breathing technique was. The 4th level of the black snake breathing technique was the beginning of becoming an official knight. There was still a lot of potential to further develop in the future. The frost wolf breathing technique was at the 4th level. It was the beginning of becoming an official knight, yet also the end. There was no way to break this limit so far. This was the maximum level of the cultivation technique itself, and Levi could not bypass it for now. Therefore, at most, the Frost Wolf Knight was a low-level knight unless he changed his breathing technique. Levi muttered, "Nonetheless, I didn't train for nothing. I still obtained the beginner speed. Beginner speed, your attack, movement, reaction speeds, and other attributes related to agility are 3 times the average human standard. You will be able to dodge some enemy attacks more quickly. 3 times the speed of an ordinary person. Not bad. I'll test it out later." Levi thought that this effect was alright from the introduction. He had achieved his goal of learning this breathing technique. He looked at his other skills. Black snake breathing technique and golden cross slash were still far from breaking through. There was no hope for development in the short term. Due to his busy digging and training in the past 3 months, his forging skills had been delayed. Otherwise, he would have been at level 4 by now. This directly led to a decrease in armor production. However, there was nothing he could do about it. Levi only had 24 hours a day and still had to eat, drink, and sleep. It was not possible to be good at everything. Levi thought, "I'll go out after I've forged to the 4th level and sell a batch of armor for 800 gold coins." After all, he was about to reach level 4 and wanted to see what effects level 1 plus forging would have. After returning to the castle through the tunnel, Levi brought Sir Fred to an open space. He planned to test the effect of beginner speed he had just obtained. The test this time was conducted in terms of running, attack, and reaction speeds, and many other aspects so that Levi could have a preliminary understanding of his current strength and avoid situations where he misjudged his strength during actual combat. Running speed was the best test. Levi first measured a track of about 100 meters, then, he leaned forward, and the muscles on his legs bulged. Wisps of white gas spread out from his pores, and even a faint hissing sound of steam could be heard. Levi started timing himself silently. He shot out like a phantom, like an arrow leaving the bow. Sir Fred looked at Levi and was slightly surprised. Even as a middle-level Emite, he could tell that young Master Levi's explosive speed was extraordinary. 5 breaths. 5 seconds. Levi ran 100 meters. 100 meters away, Levi was panting, but he quickly returned to normal. 100 meters, 5 seconds. This is too ridiculous. Levi was slightly shocked. He vaguely remembered that when he was in university in his previous life, the passing time for the loom sprint was 14 to 9 seconds, and the highest score was 12.5 seconds. He did not know the average running speed of ordinary people in this world, but because of malnutrition, except for a few nights, the overall rate was probably not as good as in his previous life. Bolt was a monstrous sprinting genius in his previous life. He broke the world record, which was 9-58. Only a few animals, like cheetahs, could sprint faster than him in the entire mammalian world. However, their endurance was not as good as his. Due to the underdeveloped cooling system, it was difficult for cheetahs to run at their limits for more than a few minutes. As for him, although he was still slower than the cheetah, he estimated that he could last for about 10 minutes in that extreme state. Too powerful. This is only a shallow breathing technique but is powerful when cultivated to the limit. Levi was excited. How fast will I be if I can find an excellent or perfect speed type breathing technique and cultivate it to the maximum? Alright. Stop fantasizing and continue the test. Next, Levi planned to test his attack speed and dodging ability. All martial arts were invincible. The fastest speed was the only way to long success. The Frost Wolf breathing technique was a speed-type breathing technique that trained one's agility and flexibility in many aspects. Fred, now you can use your strength to spar with me. You don't have to worry about hurting me anymore. I want to see what my true strength is now and what my limit is, said Levi confidently to Sir Fred. Sir Fred smiled. Young master, you said so yourself. Come, attack me fiercely. Then, Levi unsheathed his sword. His Frostmourne was ready. All right, if you want out, just tell me to stop, young master. Sir Fred's expression was solemn as he pulled out his daybreak. Then, he attacked Levi. Sir Fred did not use the golden cross slash. This sword technique was purely a killing move. He used basic swordsmanship. Levi also used basic swordsmanship. The two official knights moved around in the open space, attacking like a storm. Both sides moved aside to confront each other calmly. The sound of slashing echoed throughout the castle. Unknowingly, Levi and Sir Fred had exchanged hundreds of moves, and both sides seemed to be evenly matched. Fred, don't give in to me. In a real battle, the enemy won't give in to me, said Levi solemnly. Fred smiled bitterly and said, all right then. But I'm almost at my limit. Young master, your strength is not much different from mine as a mid-level knight. Then, Sir Fred suddenly exerted his force. The serpent vulture breathing technique he cultivated was also good at speed, and its rate was even faster than Levi's frost wolf breathing technique. Serpent vultures were birds of prey that preyed on various ferocious venomous snakes. They had long eagle claws and were capable of dodging the attacks of venomous snakes known for their speed. Therefore, even if Levi did his best, Sir Fred could deal with him quickly. Of course, the most important reason was the difference in their realms. After all, Sir Fred had been a knight for more than 10 years and was a mid-level knight, while Levi had only just stepped into the realm and had not accumulated enough experience. In the end, Fred put away his sword and gasped for breath. He sighed, congratulations, young master. Your strength has already far exceeded my expectations. It won't be long before you can surpass my old bones. Chapter 44, Forging the Fourth Stage. Please read it. Chapter 44, Forging the Fourth Stage. Please read it. Levi panted heavily and smiled, thank you, Fred. Wisps of faintly discernible black gas pervaded the muscles of his legs. This was the black gas born from the frost wolf seed. This black gas allowed Levi to move faster than ordinary people, allowing his dodging and movement techniques to reach a new level. Not bad. I'm one step closer to becoming a better warrior. Levi stretched his muscles and bones. The frost wolf and the black snake seeds lay dormant in his heart. Vaguely, Levi could see that the frost wolf seed was being suppressed by his black snake seed. It was like the instinctive bloodline suppression of a creature, or rather, the suppression of a superior over a subordinate. There was also suppression between breathing techniques. Breathing techniques born from excellent levels would also suppress the shallow levels. This was a pattern that Levi had discovered after cultivating multiple breathing techniques. The Frost Wolf breathing technique has reached its limit. Next, I'll prioritize the Siren breathing technique recorded in that booklet. The Giant Bear breathing technique can also be put on the agenda. Levi muttered, breathing techniques that can shrink bones and change body size are rare. They are handy to me. With his current realm and experience, he could not use shallow breathing techniques for too long. It would not cost him too much to develop new breathing techniques. Moreover, the special effects of these breathing techniques were beneficial to Levi. After returning to the castle, Levi went to the forging area. Young Master Levi, this is the steel helmet I forged. Please take a look. Little Milan showed Levi the results of her forging. Levi said amiably, not bad. You're now a mature official blacksmith. I'm rather busy with work, so I'll need you to pay more attention to the forging industry in the territory. If we can exceed the quota this year, I'll ask the butler to give us more money at the end of the year. Thank you, my lord. Little Milan was flattered and went back to work. Levi also found a place to continue forging armor. He wanted to raise his forging skill to the 4th level in one go. About a week later, after spending a lot of time forging, Levi's forging skill had finally reached level 4. Forging, level 4, 222/20,000. Special effect, fine grade certainty. Wind axe. Wind axe, you could create a gust by wielding the axe. You are extraordinarily skilled. Your forging efficiency is extraordinary. Is this the special effect of level 4? Not bad. This way, the future production of weapons and equipment will increase greatly. I'm closer to saving money to arm a cavalry. Levi muttered to himself as he looked at the special effect. He was already at level 4, but it was still not his limit. This meant that this skill was profound. Levi could not help but think of the blacksmith master, the flaming hammer, Hagrid Eamon. He wondered what proficiency level the legendary blacksmith's forging was. Levi sighed regretfully, it's a pity that the legend has died. There's no longer a publicly known blacksmith master in the kingdom. After reaching the 4th level of forging skill, in the remaining time of the first moon, besides cultivating breathing techniques, Levi spent all his time developing armor. With the unique effect of level 4 forging, his forging efficiency doubled. His forging efficiency was already far higher than ordinary blacksmiths. In the time it took for Little Milan to forge one set of armor, Levi could generate 6 sets of armor. The difference was prominent. Just like that, 2 months flew past without him realizing it. Levi forged iron and practiced cultivation. He had successfully mastered the siren breathing technique, and now it was time for him to gain experience. With the arrival of the month of Germinal, the winter snow began to melt, and the coldness slowly faded. Tiny green buds began to emerge in the frozen soil, and the breath of spring descended on this valley. On this day, on a muddy path, Levi led a small group of soldiers, and an old cow pulled a cart full of weapons and defensive equipment covered in hay. In the past winter, the Blackwater Valley had produced 30 sets of armor. Levi kept half of the best quality ones to equip his team. He planned to sell the rest in Icewind City in exchange for gold coins and repurchase some ambergris. Currently, there were still 50 soldiers in the Blackwater Valley. However, the difference was that these 50 soldiers had become full-time soldiers instead of part-time militia. With their significant earnings from forging, Levi estimated that the annual income of the Blackwater Valley would increase by many times this year, quickly reaching 400 to 500 gold coins. This year, his forging efficiency again increased with his newest level. Levi was confident that his territory's financial income would exceed 1,000 gold coins, an income many northern barons could not reach. In Icewind City, a middle-aged noble in elegant clothes enjoyed dinner in a luxurious and dignified noble mansion. He elegantly cut the beef in front of him with a knife and fork, enjoying the delicious food quickly. At some point, a figure wearing a black robe and a hood suddenly appeared behind him in the shadows of the candlelight. He was the broker of the Bird of Death's Voice organization, responsible for delivering information and intelligence. The fantasy goblin knight who tried to assassinate Baron Levi has been missing for almost half a year. However, according to the intelligence we received from our spies in the Blackwater Valley, Baron Levi is not dead. This means that the fantasy goblin knight is likely dead, or for some reason, he gave up on the assassination and lost contact with us. Now, that big client is doubting the professional ability of our organization. Therefore, Lord Pale Shadow has decided that you will continue to carry out the Fantasy Goblin Knight's failed mission and restore our organization's reputation. Since you are a veteran silver-medaled assassin, the big client raised the commission amount to 300 gold coins. This is a deposit of 100 gold coins. Lord Pale Shadow has high hopes for you. You must be careful this time to ensure success. The nobleman, enjoying the delicious food, took the bag of 100 gold coins from the broker and shook it gently. The sound of metal clashing against metal was so beautiful. He asked softly, "Where is this Baron Levi now?" "He's in Icewind City. According to the spies, he's wearing a white wolf mask, so it should be easier to find him," responded the broker. "I got it. Wait for my news." The middle-aged noble waved his hand, and the broker disappeared into the darkness. The middle-aged man carefully put the 100 gold coins he had just obtained into the iron box in his house and locked it up. More than 3,000 gold coins were inside, which was his savings for the past decades. He tidied his clothes in front of the bronze mirror, picked up his sword, and blew out the candles in the room. "Lord of Shadows, may this assassination be completed flawlessly." Chapter 45, Chapter 45, 5 Shadows of Death. Chapter 45, 5 Shadows of Death. The middle-aged noble was named Bernard. His father was once a baron in the north. When he was very young, his terrible gambling father sold his baron fief, and the whole family moved to Icewind City. This made him full of hostility towards his father. Because of his father, he could not become a noble of the feudal land and could only live in the crowded Icewind City with lowly civilians. Therefore, he had been working hard on his cultivation since he was young and had successfully become an official knight. He had cultivated the breathing technique passed down from his ancestors to the highest realm and killed his gambling father. When he was young, Bernard accidentally came into contact with the faith of the Shadow Lord and quickly became a believer. With his strength as a mid-level knight, he joined the Bird of Death's Voice and gradually became a silver assassin. The assassin system of the Bird of Death was divided into bronze, silver, gold, and shadow assassins. Gold, silver, and bronze assassins all needed to be assessed and evaluated. It was similar to a title. Generally speaking, one could become a bronze assassin if one had the strength of a low-level knight and had completed 5 successful assassination missions. The silver medal required the power of a mid-level knight and 15 successful assassinations. The gold medal needed the strength of a high-level or peak knight and more than 30 successful assassinations. As for the shadow-level assassins, there were only 5 of them, known as the 5 Shadows of Death. They were the closest existences to the Shadow Lord and his representatives in the human world. At the same time, they were also 5 genuine Grand Knights. No one knew the true identity of the 5 Shadows because the members of the Bird of Death's Voice organization and the 5 Shadows were always in a one-way relationship. On the surface, they might be wealthy merchants, or they might be counts or even Grand Dukes. In short, they were highly mysterious. Fantasy Goblin has been a bronze assassin for so long, but he still failed. Baron Levi is quite strong, so we can't underestimate him. Night gradually came, and the stars appeared. Bernard wore his night suit, and his entire body merged perfectly with the darkness. According to the information provided by the broker, he sneaked toward Levi's location. Bernard's nickname in the organization was Shadow Hunter, which was related to the breathing technique he cultivated. He did not develop the siren breathing technique. Instead, he produced the bloodline breathing technique passed down in his family, shadow leopard breathing technique. It was a technique that was highly agile and stealthy. In Bernard's opinion, the fantasy goblin knight's failure was most likely due to carelessness and underestimation. Otherwise, how could Baron Levi, who was only in his teens, be a match for an official knight good at assassination? Bernard muttered, after completing this mission, I can stop. After saving over 3,000 gold coins, I should be able to redeem our family's fief. He had waited for this moment for far too long. Levi bought a nameless wine cup in the Shining Tavern to commemorate the thousand-faced knight. The lady boss rested her chin on her hand and drank wine in boredom. The knights, sworders, and masked nobles chatted in the tavern. Not long after, a burly knight in armor walked in. It was the knight who had traded with Levi. He was the wild boar knight that Sir Fred mentioned, the leader of the wild boar gang. He was now a member of the Wilderness Brotherhood, and his status could be high. The wild boar knight frowned as he approached Levi. Why was the supply a little low some time ago? I was a little busy a while ago, answered Levi. The wild boar knight looked at White Wolf Gerald and said in a low voice, I can feel that you seem stronger than before. Levi did not say anything. Instead, he asked, did you bring the money? Seeing that the White Wolf Gerald had no intention of talking to him, the wild boar knight did not get angry. Instead, he took out the money and showed it to Levi. The gold coins in the bag made a crisp sound. Levi brought the wild boar knight to the delivery point outside the city and handed over the goods. After all, too many armors and weapons were involved, and it was inconvenient to enter the city. Therefore, Levi later made an appointment with the wild boar knight. The two sides would trade at a place Levi chose outside the town and only meet at the Shining Tavern. With his current strength, he did not have to worry about being robbed by him. The wild boar knight asked someone to load the goods into the truck and said, the quality of your armor is not bad. I can tell that you are a very talented blacksmith. If you join my organization, we will give you more helpers and a blacksmith like you a stage to display your talents. Perhaps you can become a legendary blacksmith master like the Flaming Hammer. Levi shook his head and said, there's no need. The wild boar knight left resentfully because he knew there was no hope of inviting Levi. Levi told his soldiers, you guys return to the territory first. I still have some things to do. Yes, my lord. Levi returned to the Shining Tavern. When trading with the wild boar knight, Levi felt that the wild boar knight, who had once regarded domineering, was all right. He was confident that he could kill him if they fought. However, that was unnecessary. Even if the wild boar knight was his enemy, he could bring him benefits. There were no eternal friends, only lasting benefits. During his extended stay at Shining Tavern, Levi did not find the knight who sold ambergris. He planned to remain in Icewine City for a few days. Levi would have to think of other ways to get ambergris if the knight did not come in these few days. Levi did not know that a silver assassin had targeted him from the Bird of Death's voice. Bored, Levi decided to look at the quests on the bounty pane to see if he could obtain ambergris through bounty quests. Not long after, he saw a related quest related. It was a noble also hunting for ambergris, issued 3 months ago, but no one has completed it. Seeing this, Levi's expression turned ugly. There was a high chance that he could not buy ambergris through bounty commission. Ambergris was getting harder and harder to obtain these days. It was all that D*MN White Horse Knight's fault. He had only advanced to legendary but monopolized all the ambergris. I might have to visit the Tuva Empire in 2 days. Levi did not want to go to the Tuva Empire unless it was essential. Unknown risks could always arise in unfamiliar environments. While disappointed, he found a quest on the bounty pane that lit his eyes. An official knight is needed for a mission. The requirement is excellent archery skills. Reward, 1 bottle of ambergris, convertible into gold coins of the same value. Chapter 46, Chapter 46, Black Rhino Knight and the Earthly Dragon Beast. Chapter 46, Black Rhino Knight and the Earthly Dragon Beast. What a coincidence. This bounty commission was tailor-made for him. Levi even suspected that this quest was bait to lure him in. This mission was issued 7 days ago. Logically speaking, with the rarity of ambergris, this mission should have been accepted long ago. However, the fact that the mission was still there 7 days later could only mean that the person who issued the mission had high requirements for archery. Although he did not know what to do, Levi still accepted the mission as it was the only way for him to obtain ambergris. If he failed, he could give up and pay a small fine. Not long after, the person who issued the quest came to Levi. When Levi saw him, he was amused. It was the knight who had sold him ambergris. In the end, it was he who could provide ambergris. Fate was wonderful. Levi could not help but sigh. However, this person did have access to ambergris. The knight did not recognize Levi and asked severely, "Sir, have you seen the mission requirements? The archery skills demanded for this mission are incredibly high." The knight had a doubtful look on his face. After all, during this period, no less than 10 people claimed to be master archers. After testing them, however, he found they were all liars and did not meet his requirements. "Won't you know if my archery is good or not after you try it?" Sensing his doubts, Levi said calmly. "All right, follow me." Then, the knight left the shining tavern. Levi thought for a moment and followed. In the wilderness outside the Icewine city, this knight found a space and specially bought 3 snow rabbits from the hunter. These snow rabbits were alive and kicking. "To confirm whether your archery meets my requirements, I need to test you," said the knight. "No problem." The knight nodded and opened the cage. The 3 snow rabbits dashed in 3 different directions. Not long after, they ran nearly 100 meters. "You can shoot now. If you can shoot 2 of them, you will pass," said the knight. It seemed that he did not hold much hope. If shooting 1 snow rabbit was tricky, striking a second one would be a Sisyphean task for most knights. The snow rabbits were running too fast. If one had not learned the instant shot skill, the second rabbit would have been gone after killing the first one. Levi did not waste any time aiming. He casually shot an arrow at a snow rabbit about to burrow into the bushes before him. He did not even look at the result of the hand and immediately drew his bow again to shoot a second arrow. This arrow was aimed at a snow rabbit running to the left. This snow rabbit had already run 100 meters away. Then, under the knight's shocked gaze, the arrows instantly killed the 2 snow rabbits. As for the third rabbit, Levi withheld his arrow. Although he was confident of striking it, it would be unnecessary. Passing was enough. If he shot too many, it would expose too much of his strength. He believed that this result was enough to convince the knight. Sure enough, the knight reacted and could not help but cheer, "Your archery skills are indeed superb. You have already met my requirements. I will tell you about our mission." The knight introduced himself, "I'm Graf, a bounty hunter. May I know how I should address you?" "You can call me White Wolf." "I'm a free knight," responded Levi. To put it bluntly, a free knight was a wandering knight. Some knights who did not have a fief liked to use the fancy term wandering knights on themselves. It was similar to how the unemployed people in his previous life wanted to call themselves freelancers or authors. Graf did not say anything. The man called himself the White Wolf and did not want to reveal his identity. Judging from his manners and attire, it was evident that he was a noble knight and not a wandering one. However, he was not interested in the man's identity. He only needed his superb archery skills to help him accomplish something big. Graf brought Levi to a mansion he had bought in Icewine City. When Levi arrived, he found 3 knights in the mansion. One of them was more than 2 meters tall, and it was evident that he had cultivated a strength-based breathing technique. Beside him was an exaggerated long shield estimated to weigh more than 100 pounds. One of the other two was a rare female knight. In this world, men were superior to women. Under normal circumstances, whether it was the noble or royal family, it was rare for women to learn breathing techniques, so real female knights were rare. This female knight was much smaller. She wore light leather armor wrapped around her petite but fiery figure. Coupled with her curly blonde hair and slender legs, she was eye-catching. The last one was a middle-aged man. His weapon was a spear, and he was feeding his beloved horse in the stable. The three of them were all official knights. They were all gathered in Graf's mansion. It was obvious that they were here for Graf's bounty mission. Your Excellency White Wolf, allow me to introduce you to the other three teammates of our operation. This strong man who is as strong as a mountain is the Black Rhino Knight. The beautiful and elegant lady is Red Spider Knight, and the gentleman feeding the horse is the Green Falcon Knight. This time, we have gathered 5 official knights to ensure this operation is foolproof, said Graf with a smile, looking confident. Levi asked, what is the goal of our operation? Up until now, Graf had not said what he wanted to do. Graf shook his head. He came to a warehouse in the mansion and opened the door. Inside, there was a machine that occupied a lot of space. When Levi saw it, his expression changed slightly. This was a military armor-breaking crossbow used in large-scale wars. It was rumored that it could tear through plate armor and even destroy weak city walls. Our target this time is an earthly dragon beast, responded Graf. Levi immediately turned around and left. Chapter 47, Chapter 47, The Mysterious Human Heart. Chapter 47, The Mysterious Human Heart. Levi's expression changed as if he did not want to participate when hearing their target. An adult earthly dragon beast was a Grand Knight level fierce beast. It was genuinely invulnerable. Although there were 5 official knights and a military-grade armor-breaking crossbow, one could only hope to destroy such a beast. If something unexpected happened, they might lose their lives. Levi needed ambergris, but it did not mean he could not cultivate the breathing technique without the black snake secret medicine. At most, he would need to spend more time. He was only 16 years old. If he had become a Grand Knight before 30, he would not be inferior to a genius like his father. Therefore, there was no need to take this risk. If the so-called wealth would have to come from danger, how would it be different from gambling? Levi did not like gambling. He wanted to do things with certainty. With the proficiency panel, he could just slowly work on himself. Seeing Levi leave, Graf shouted, Your Excellency White Wolf, don't go. Since I dared to hunt the earthly dragon beast, I naturally have sufficient confidence. I've been observing that earthly dragon beast for several years. Just a month ago, it fought with a Grand Knight of the Tuva Empire and suffered serious injuries. That Grand Knight also escaped with serious injuries. I paid a great price to borrow this armor-breaking crossbow from the military, and I even invited 3 official knights with extraordinary abilities, like Sir White Wolf. With so much preparation, I can't say I'm 100% confident, but I'm 70% confident we can kill the earthly dragon beast. How about this? After this, I will give you 2 bottles of ambergris. Graf had finally met a genuine master archer, so he did not want to give up. Levi's archery skills were crucial to his mission. Although the armor-breaking crossbow was powerful, it had to be accurate. That was why Graf had tried recruiting knights with excellent archery skills from the Shining Tavern. However, after 7 days, all he had gotten to know were scammers. It was not easy for him to meet a real master archer like Levi, and he did not want to wait any longer. He was worried that if he continued waiting, given the earthly dragon beast's powerful body and self-healing ability, it would have recovered from its injuries. Since the armor-breaking crossbow differed from ordinary bows and arrows, as long as there was a master archer like Levi, the accuracy of the armor-breaking crossbow would be multiplied. As long as the armor-breaking crossbow could accurately hit the earthly dragon beast's vital organs, there was still hope for the 5 knights to kill the earthly dragon beast. To put it bluntly, it was just a beast. How could it compare to humans who had tools and intelligence? Levi stopped in his tracks and hesitated for a moment. Swear on the Heavenly Father that you're not lying to me. Is the earthly dragon beast injured? Levi didn't believe it. On the Heavenly Father, Graf, will never lie, swore Graf. In this world, due to the church's brainwashing, people generally believed that gods existed. Therefore, if one swore before God, there was still a certain degree of credibility. This was the state of the world here. Levi's heart skipped a beat. He was unsure about leaving in the beginning. After all, when he saw the armor-breaking crossbow, he knew that his role in this mission to kill the earthly dragon beast was to shoot long-range arrows. It was not that dangerous. He just wanted to see if he could take the opportunity to extort from Graf. Otherwise, he would leave. From the looks of it, Levi had achieved his goal. All right, then I'll say it. I'll only be responsible for what I should do. If I encounter any danger, I'll run away. Levi made it clear in advance. No problem. You need to shoot the vital organs of the earthly dragon beast with the armor-breaking crossbow. You don't need to participate in the rest. As for the ambergris, I'll distribute it to you after the task is completed. I don't have any ambergris on hand now, Graf hesitantly said. Levi asked, Sure. When do we start? Tomorrow noon. The Red Spider Knights will need to prepare a highly toxic medicine to be smeared on the arrowheads, said Graf. Sure. Then, Levi turned around and left. Your Excellency White Wolf. Tomorrow, we'll meet at the western exit of Icewine City. We'll head to the earthly dragon beast together. Then, Graf watched Levi's figure disappear at the end of the street. The Black Rhino Knight wiped his giant shield and sword and sneered, Ha, looks like he's a disciple of a great noble who came out to gain experience. He certainly cherishes his life. I can feel the youthful and lively aura on that white wolf. Although he's wearing a mask, he shouldn't be that old. It seems that he has just advanced to an official knight. However, to do so at this age, he shouldn't be an ordinary noble. He should at least be the son of an earl. If he's the eldest son, marrying him might be a wise decision, said the Red Spider Knight proudly as she lazily stretched. Graf, will you give him 2 bottles of ambergris? An adult earthly dragon beast's gland can produce only about 20 bottles. If that guy can get 2 bottles by shooting an arrow without much risk, I'll need 4. I'll be fighting a seriously injured earthly dragon beast head-on, said the Black Rhino Knight with a dissatisfied expression. I'll be in charge of luring the earthly dragon beasts. I'll also be in great danger, the Green Falcon Knight added. Can you kill the earthly dragon beast without me concocting the poison? I want 5 bottles, said the Red Spider Knight, crossing her arms. Graf sneered, I'm just trying to calm him down first. He's just a noob who's out training alone. How can I give him 2 bottles? As for you guys, don't ask for too much. After all, only I know the location of the earthly dragon beast, and only I can get this armor-breaking crossbow. If you don't want to do it, you can leave. Anyway, it was only challenging to find a master archer. A bunch of wandering knights in the Shining Tavern want to do your jobs. I gave you the mission because we have cordial relationships. Don't let me down. The 3 knights stayed silent when Graf refused. It was difficult for wandering knights like them to make money, so they naturally did not want to give up this opportunity. As long as this mission was completed, they could earn many gold coins from ambergris. Part 3 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.